You know what's strange? We talk endlessly about boomers and millennials. We dissect Gen Z like they're some kind of fascinating new species. But there's this entire generation that just exists in the middle, barely mentioned, almost invisible. Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980, and they're probably your coworker who never complains, your parent who seems strangely detached, or that person who built half the internet but doesn't post about their lunch. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Their silence isn't accidental, it's strategic. Let me ask you something. What happens to a kid who comes home to an empty house every day at age 8? No smartphone, no Ring camera, no way for anyone to check if they're okay. You let yourself in, make a snack, do your homework alone, and wait. By 1984, roughly 7 million children between ages 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. That's an entire generation learning one brutal lesson. You can't always count on someone being there. That empty house didn't just make them self-reliant, it rewired how their brains process trust. There's this concept in psychology called a high contingency environment, where actions and outcomes are directly linked without buffer time. Your brain learns to predict consequences in real time. Step out of line, you pay for it immediately. No negotiation, no therapy talk, just consequences. Which is why Gen X tends to think 3 steps ahead in ways that baffle everyone around them. They're not overthinking, they're running simulations based on decades of pattern recognition. And here's what's fascinating. They watched their parents talk about stability, then rack up divorce rates through the 70s and 80s. They saw people give everything to companies only to get pink slips when the economy shifted. The message was clear: work hard, follow the rules, and life will work out. But then the rules changed right in front of them. Psychologists call it defensive pessimism. Gen X just calls it being realistic. If you're relating to this, drop a comment below. But here's what people miss. That emotional armor isn't cynicism, it's protection. They cross their fingers for good things, but they expect the rug to get pulled because historically it always has. And that's exactly why they're barely on social media. They grew up when privacy was normal. When you messed up as a kid, maybe 5 people knew. No phones, no screenshots, no permanence. The idea of broadcasting your life to strangers doesn't feel exciting to them. It feels dangerous. It's not that they don't get technology, they built it. They just learned early that the less people know about you, the safer you are. And maybe the most misunderstood thing about Gen X is this. They're simultaneously the most independent generation and the most quietly loyal. They'll never ask for help, been solving problems alone since they were 8. But if you need help, they show up. No drama, no post about it, just competence. They don't respect titles, they respect skill. If you've earned your position, they'll follow you anywhere. If you're just someone with a fancy job title who doesn't know what they're doing, they have zero patience. Because they watched incompetent authority figures make terrible decisions their entire childhood. From Watergate to the AIDS crisis to every economic collapse that hit right when they were trying to build something. So here's what I want you to think about. What if Gen X isn't emotionally unavailable? What if they're just operating from a survival manual the rest of us never had to read? What if their silence isn't indifference, it's efficiency? What if they're not cynical, they're just the only generation that learned to expect the floor to drop out and kept walking anyway? Because at the end of the day, bridges don't get attention, they just hold things together. And maybe that's the most Gen X thing of all, not needing you to notice. If this resonated with you, subscribe. I explore generational psychology like this every week. Watch this video next. I'll see you there.